Hello everyone, Jade here, otherwise known as Scarlet Rebel. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, Jade, this is weird, this isn't how you normally do a video. Where's your face? Where's the shelf with all the nerdy stuff in it? Where are you? Well, the short answer to that is that I have a new microphone, and there's a longer answer that kind of explains where I've been for the past few months as well. I am currently working with Planet Destiny on some lore videos for their YouTube channel. It's an absolutely incredible opportunity, and I'm so grateful to Moon and the team there for seeing something in the videos that I make and asking me to help them out with some content. And in order to kind of get the stuff that I make up to a professional quality, they basically bought me a microphone, which was really, really nice of them. So I couldn't really go any further in this video or on this channel in general without at least thanking them. So thank you, Moon. Thank you, Planet Destiny. And yeah, that's kind of where I've been for the past few months, is working on stuff with them, which hopefully will be coming out soon. Can't really put a day on it at the moment, but that's where I've been, and that's why I've been busy and why I haven't been here. And that's why my setup sounds a lot more professional, and why I'm able to very quickly do a video by just talking to a microphone and not having to worry about setting up my camera and putting on a face of makeup and stuff like that. So with that in mind, let's just get to talking about the thing that made me turn on this microphone in the first place, which is the brand new story trailer for Beyond Light that dropped. So I have been waiting for a story trailer for a long time, and it's always the story trailers that get me the most excited for DLCs. But before we actually talk about the story trailer itself, which came out on the 20th, I actually want to talk about a video that was uploaded the month before, which was like the Europa, I think it was called the Europa reveal trailer or something like that, or like a Europa trailer just talking about like the, what would you call it, the location itself. That one came out in September, so it came out a month before the story trailer, and I actually recorded a video similar to this one with me just talking to this mic about that one, because my boy Variks is back. I like Variks a lot. Variks is a very interesting character, and when it was revealed that he was going to be a part of this story and this DLC, a lot of people had a lot to say about him, which I wanted to also talk about. So if somehow you're living under a rock, I'll play the Europa trailer, the first one that came out, right now.
What have you seen out there? Look beyond the frozen wasteland. Europa is a place of many mysteries. Do not lose your way. We all come to this moon looking for answers. What do you hope to find here?
Europa has been home to darkness for some time now. Its history could be the key to our fight. Help me unlock it. The deepest secrets of Europa are now within our grasp.
So that was the Europa trailer. That was the kind of first place where we heard Variks. I mean, basically since Destiny 1, we haven't heard anything about him since Forsaken. In Forsaken, he got a lore book that was called The Loyal, which told us about where... Well, it didn't really tell us... Oh gosh, I don't want to say this. It basically told us about everything that happened up until the prison break in Forsaken, right? Told us a little bit about what Variks had been doing and how he basically had a hand in creating the Scorn, if I'm remembering correctly. But before then, the last time we had heard from Variks was... I think it was The Taken King, because it was The Taken King, Rise of Iron, and then Destiny 2 came out. He didn't really have anything to do in Rise of Iron, and from what I can remember, there was no lore pieces about him. So we really had no idea where he was by the turn of Destiny 2, and we didn't see him at all. We heard about him obviously in the law book and also in the strike that's in the Prison of Elders, which I can't remember the name of, and I wish I could remember the name of it now. The one where Drifter's talking to you and the prison warden. I think it's just called the Warden or something like that. Anyway, yeah, basically this is the first we've heard of him since Forsaken, so like a year. And one of the things I talked about when I was talking about that trailer in particular when it came out last month was the fact that the main thing that kind of captured me about that, well, there was two things that captured me about that. One that kind of exists within the trailer itself, and the other which is something that, you know, I don't want to say caused a stir, but, you know, started people talking on Twitter and online and stuff. So the first thing, just being in the context of the trailer, is the fact that I wasn't sure if Variks was friend or foe to the Guardian. My opinion of that has changed with the story trailer that more recently came out, so I'll wait until we get to that to talk a little bit more about that in particular. But yeah, the Europa trailer basically made it sound like he knew a lot about the Fallen that we were going up against, which makes sense. When that trailer came out, Bungie put up a page on their website which had a map of Europa, and it talked about different areas. And there was one area that basically had a communication array in it that talked about, you know, this is where Variks has sent a distress signal. So the implication there was that, you know, Variks is in trouble and he needs help, but, you know, that would be the Occam's razor. That would be the thing that would make the most sense. So yes, at the time, it still wasn't 100% sure. In the Loyal law book that you can get from doing public events, I think it has to be heroic public events on the Tangled Shore, from opening the chests, and it's like randomized like other law books in the Dreaming City Tangled Shore area. In that law book, and I'll admit I'm kind of remembering this off the top of my head, it makes it very apparent that Variks is leaving the Reef and leaving his position as Warden and leaving aiding the Awoken to help his race, to help the Fallen. And that is something that he talks about in the story trailer, which again we'll talk about in a minute. But he makes it very obvious that he's leaving to help his own people. He doesn't necessarily want to help the Awoken anymore. He doesn't necessarily say anything about wanting to help the Guardians anymore, even though he has been an aid to us in the past. So again, with that first trailer, I was really worried, because I enjoy Variks as a character a lot, that he was maybe going to be on the side of Eramis, who is the Fallen foe, kind of main villain, I guess, of this expansion, because she has managed to use the power of the darkness and give it to the rest of her Fallen troops. And what we now know from the story trailer, they want revenge against the Traveler, which, you know what? Fair. If you know the story of the Fallen, that's fair. The other thing that came up surrounding that was the topic of Variks having a hand in Cade's death. Now, if you haven't played Forsaken, or if you haven't seen anything from it, you only know that Cade was the Hunter Vanguard, and even though he's in a lot of the promotional imagery for Destiny still, he's not in the game anymore. Cade 6 died in the prison in Forsaken, and that was kind of the main catalyst for that story. He was killed by the Prince of the Reef, or once Prince of the Reef, I suppose, Marisov's brother, Uldren. Uldren at the time was under the mind-altering influence of a wish... Well, it's very complicated. He was under the mind-altering influence of a Ahamkara, which is basically a wish dragon. But that dragon was also under the influence of a literal hive god, who, you know, if you've played Shadowkeep and you've played Seasonal Arrivals, Savathun, yeah, her. And there's a bigger conversation to have about whether or not that absolves Uldren of the fact that he, you know, did murder Cade. However, that is the thing that happened, and that is just all the information that is going into that conversation. But we're not talking about Uldren right now, even though that is probably a video that I will do at some point. We are talking about Variks, and the reason why people started to have a conversation about whether or not Variks was involved or had a hand or should share some blame for Cade's death in the prison is because the reason why Cade and the Guardian went to the prison in the first place is because there was a prison break. The Loyal Law Book tells us that Variks purposefully instigated that prison break. I can't remember off the top of my head what exactly was the defining moment for him, but we know that it had something to do with, you know, Cade and Petra finding Uldren and throwing him in the prison without really much care for his mental or physical well-being. Variks was very tired of it. Variks didn't want anything to do with it, so as he left, he opened all the cages, and that's how we got to the beginning of Forsaken. Now, just to weigh in my own kind of opinion on that, even though it's a discussion that, you know, has died by now. Just to kind of weigh in my opinion of that, I wouldn't put blame for Cade's death squarely on Variks the same way I wouldn't put it squarely on Uldren. Variks definitely never opened the prison with the intention of killing Cade 6, the Hunter Vanguard. So I think that I wouldn't say that absolves him of blame, but I think that should go to show that it's not his fault. So if you're going into Beyond Light thinking that you don't like Variks, or you're not gonna help him out or whatever just because you think that he had something to do with Cade's death, I would disagree with that. I don't think he had a hand in it. You know, you can't deny the fact that he was, again, a part of what happened. Like, naturally he started that, he kick-started that. But to say that Variks is one of the people to blame for Cade's death is just inaccurate. So yes, just wanted to put my 2 cents on that. I'm not saying that Variks is innocent, I am just saying that if you're going into Beyond Light disliking him because you think that he's responsible for Cade's death, I would imagine that you're the same kind of person who, knowing that Uldren has been brought back as a Guardian, is like, oh, well, I can't wait to kill him again because he killed Cade 6. And it's like, I get where you're coming from, but you're definitely only seeing it from a surface level, and you need to take a step back because it's really not that simple. Which is why this story is so cool, because there's nuances to it, and the narrative that has been shown to us ever since Forsaken, ever since Cade's death, has been one of, you know, the line between light and dark is so very thin. Do you know which side you're on? That's what Uldren says to us at the end of the Forsaken campaign. You know, that narrative has then proceeded through everything. It's very apparent in Season of Arrivals right now. It was very apparent through the Last Word Thorn Lumina quests. It was very apparent through Season of the Drifter. It was so apparent through Season of the Drifter. So it's just something that was kickstarted with Forsaken and has since been going very strong, which I think is absolutely incredible. And when it comes to characters like Variks and Uldren, I think you'd really need to, unless you want to be that paladin guardian who just, you know, takes down everyone who does wrong because, you know, that's just who you are, then fine, more power to you. I don't judge. But like I said, there's nuances to the story that I think deserve thinking about and talking about, and yeah, I could really ramble about that, so I'm going to stop myself there. And then we move on to the story trailer. So the story trailer is really, really cool, and before I dive into talking about it, I'm just going to play it right here. Again, if you've been living under a rock and you haven't seen it, I would assume you've seen it because you clicked on this video, but just in case, and also because it's really awesome, I'm just going to play it again. So here it is.
Chains! For centuries we have been bound by them. We have become pawns of our own devices. No longer!
Darkness walks among us. We are all in great danger. My kind must survive. Please, send help.
Where is the signal coming from?
Here, Europa.
Wait!
Old friend, these powers, they are changing you.
Aramis's presence on Europa is not happenstance. Obsession propelled her here.
Our enemies stand no chance against this power. The great machine will finally know our pain.
And there it goes. So let's keep talking about Variks because that's kind of the main theme of this video I'm seeing. Very, very glad upon watching that to find out that well, it still seems like Variks is in trouble and needs our help. Whoever Aramis is, she definitely doesn't seem like she's happy with Variks, although that little moment where it looks like she's freezing him in place, you know, we can't really guess what he says to her, whether or not he tries to, I don't want to say, well, yeah, like, you know, trick or talk his way out of a bad situation by throwing us under the bus or anything like that. It's all conjecture. It's all up to your own kind of personal interpretation upon watching that trailer. I choose to interpret that Variks is hobbling through the snow because he's trying to get to that communication array and send us a message, because he's seen the line, or he's seen the path that the Fallen are taking, and he knows that by using the darkness powers, it's going to lead them to ruin. That's the last thing that Variks wants. The Fallen aren't called the Fallen. That's not their race name. Their race name is Lixney. So we have called them the Fallen because, you know, they are fallen. They're scavengers now. Their whole story is that they once had the Traveller, and when the darkness came for the Traveller abandoned them. It's why they attack us. It's why they keep trying to get into the sea. It's why one of the biggest wars, Twilight Gap, that happened in Destiny's history is the Fallen trying to get into the city, because they're trying to get the Traveller back. They have a name for it, and I can't for the life of me remember what the name is. The Great Machine, that's it. They're trying to get the Great Machine back. It's also why the servitors look the way that they do, because the Fallen need to live on a thing called ether, and the servitors create ether, and they have basically created servitors almost kind of in the image of the Traveller. I don't know if that's like confirmed canon, but that is something that I remember seeing somewhere a long time ago, so that could just be a personal interpretation of mine, just putting that out there. So yeah, the idea that Aramis has gone to Europa, or maybe has been led to Europa there by Variks, which I wouldn't put past him. It would make sense to me that he would lead them to Europa because he's heard of a great power there, but things just fell out of his control because he wasn't the leader. Variks has never struck me as a character or a Fallen who would want to be a leader or a Kell. He's always much better being the scribe and being the advisor. So it would make sense to me that he's learned about this great power on Europa because... Oh yeah, that's a point as well that I've just realised. So Uldren Sov was a crow, and he had command of people and machines called crows in the Awoken. They were basically spies. They went out, they garnered information, and they came back. Uldren was essentially Mara's spy master, and he was very, very good at it. But when Uldren died during the Taken War, Variks assumed control of the crows. So it would make sense to me that maybe Variks used the crows to scout Europa, and again, found this great power. He left the reef because he was sick of it, and I don't blame him, and tried to lead the Fallen that he could find to Europa, but didn't realise just how damaging this power was. But Aramis, maybe being the actual, you know, proper leader of that crew of Fallen, was like, this is exactly what we need, and we are going to use it to either kill the Great Machine or bring it back to our side, which, given the story trailer, looks like she just wants to kill it, which is, again, you know, more power to her. And Variks was like, dear God, what have I done? What have I done? Hence why he's trying to get a message to us. And I guess at the end of the day, I am just very happy that it looks more and more like Variks is trying to help us, and I really, really hope it stays that way, because, gosh, so many people really, really want to make him their bad guy, because when it comes to the death of a beloved character like Cade 6, they will just point fingers anywhere, which I get, but just, I just think it would be really, really cool if Variks was like, I've made a mistake, please help me. But anyway, I want to round off this video by talking a little bit more about the story trailer in general. First things first, Aramis is really spooky and really scary, and if I can find her voice actress, I will put her name on the screen, because oh my god, she sounds incredible. She sounds incredible. No matter who she is, I cannot wait to hear more of her dialogue in this DLC. She sounds great, and she has ambition and she has a goal. I remember during the Taken King, people talked about Oryx and how Oryx was the first, like, oh no, it wasn't Oryx they talked about, although that's it. I'm thinking about Gaul, because Gaul was the first time that the developers at Bungie talked about how they have a villain now who, you know, has a goal and has an ambition and is really smart and really strategic. But I would actually argue that Oryx was that villain before Gaul even came around, and I do remember during the Taken King they talked about how Oryx has come back for revenge, so it furthered the story more at that point from what we had, which, let's be honest, wasn't a lot, in talking about how Oryx was here specifically because of the Guardian's actions. He wanted revenge for the death of his son, Crota. So we've had Oryx, we've had Gaul. There wasn't really a villain, so to speak, in Rise of Iron. It was just a threat, the Siva threat. And then I guess there was Panoptes during the Curse of Osiris, but again, he wasn't like a huge threat. He certainly wasn't like a mastermind villain. Same goes for Zol, even though Zol was really cool in Warmind. But still, he's supposed to be like this like apex of Hive gods, and we killed him in a strike, and like in Forsaken, the DLC that came afterwards, they had to like clarify, they had to have a character who knows a lot about the Hive Toland be like, oh, you think you killed a Hive god? Haha, don't think so. Because, yeah. So it seems to me like Eramis is kind of joining that list, which comprises mainly of Gaul and Oryx, in terms of villains who know what they're doing, know what they want, have a goal, and will do anything that they have to in order to achieve it. And I am so excited to see that. It feels a little bit refreshing because, again, I don't feel like we've had a actual villain for a really long time. In Forsaken, it was Uldren because, you know, revenge story, but I have opinions about that, which is going to make this video run even longer and would probably, again, fit more in a video about Cade's death and Uldren Sov and, you know, that whole thing. There's a lot of opinions there and there's a lot to talk about there. So if you'd like to see me make that video, maybe leave me a comment. Not that I'm saying that you have to comment in order for me to make it. I will make it one day, but if you have any particular interest, I'd love to hear about it and love to hear your thoughts on the subject too. But the point is that we haven't had a villain with that kind of conviction since Gaul. So it's going to be really, really cool to see that in Destiny 2, and I hope that Eramis lives up to that. We haven't really heard a lot about her, and when Bungie are excited about a villain, I do feel like they talk about them a lot. So we'll see what happens in between now and the 10th, if anything more does come out about Eramis, and if Bungie want to talk about her more. But otherwise, we're not really going to know, like, how serious, I guess, how villainous she is, and how much she's not here to play around, even though I get the feeling that she is not here to play around at all. One thing I want to say as well is that given everything else that we've got little trickles about the story before now, it's definitely seemed like it was race against time to try and stop the Fallen from using the darkness. But with this story trailer, it kind of confirms that the Fallen already have the darkness powers, or at least a handful of them do, so maybe it is still a race against time. Maybe we're trying to figure out a way to take their powers away from them. Maybe they're, you know, gonna launch an assault on the city now that they have these powers and we need to stop it. Who knows what that could be, but it's nice to know that it's confirmed that it's going to be something, or at least it feels like it might be something a little bit more than just a race against time. It also looks to me like the Exo Stranger's introduction back into this story is finding variks' message before we do, which is very, very interesting. That is kind of something that the Exo Stranger, I don't want to say it's something that she's known for, but in Destiny 1 her thing was definitely sending messages, receiving messages. Every time we talked to her, it felt like she was talking to someone else at the same time. So it would make sense to me that either through wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff, or just because she was in the area and heard it, she found variks' message before we did, and, you know, who knows what's going to happen there? Who knows if she's already got Iris and Drift on the planet? Who knows if that's the instigating moment for her to call on them because she knows the Guardian is going to, you know, follow straight behind? And speaking about Iris and the Drifter, I was kind of hoping for a little bit more from them, but obviously they are there, it would seem, in a support role more than anything, which is a little bit of a shame, because if there's one thing I have adored out of everything that has come out of Season of Arrivals, it's the quote-unquote relationship between Eris and the Drifter. They're just two really, really cool characters, and it's the kind of interaction that makes you think, why did I not think that that would be perfect? Why has that never crossed my mind that those two would maybe not get along, but have a symbiotic relationship the way that they do? They're just so interesting together, really, really interesting together. So if there was one thing I wanted from the story trailer, it was to see more of them. But again, if there's nothing more about them between now and November 10th, when Beyond Light comes out, I would guess that they are mainly in a support role, which isn't a bad thing. It's really cool that they're there. You know, I would assume, well, actually, no, I wouldn't assume. I believe a lot in the Bungie story team. I really, really do. And I don't think that they would, you know, muck up an Anton's gun like this and have them there and have them not do anything. They're there for a reason. They're there because they know what they're doing. If the story was about the Stranger and Variks, it would be the Stranger and Variks. Why would the Stranger go out of her way to contact two people who are close to the tower? And it bears mentioning as well that these two people help the Vanguard, are under the jurisdiction of the Vanguard, but Eris definitely does whatever she thinks is best, and Drifter just does whatever he thinks. So there's a lot to unpack there, and I guess my main point of all that is that I wish there was a little bit more of those two in there, but I guess that speaks to where they're at in terms of the story and how they're going to be helping us. The Exo Stranger is still as mysterious as ever. She's just giving us narration instead of anything else, which is fine because she's the Exo Stranger, she's mysterious, but dear God in heaven, please have her do something really, really, really cool. And also, who has on their Beyond Light bingo card a joke about I don't have time to explain why I don't have time to explain? There's gonna be a joke in there somewhere, guys. It's gotta be. It's gotta be. Like, I would bet money. And as far as first impressions go, that's kind of the main things that I wanted to talk about. So overall, both of these trailers are really, really, really cool. And especially the story trailer. I hope there's just a little bit more story information that comes out in between now and the release, but I guess we'll have to see. As I mentioned at the beginning, I am very, very lucky to be working on some things with Planet Destiny at the moment, so content might slow it down. I'm hoping it doesn't slow down entirely. Now that I have this microphone, hopefully making videos will be a lot easier. Thanks again to Moon and everyone at Planet Destiny. But other than that, thank you so much for watching this video. I'm sorry it's been such a long time. My name is Jade, otherwise known as Scarlet Rebel. If you want to follow me on any social media, they will all be down in the description. Twitter is mainly where I go to talk and yell about Destiny stuff. But you can follow my Instagram as well if you like. My Tumblr is also down there. Leave me a comment down below talking about Beyond Light or anything that you think is interesting in this video. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and please consider subscribing and liking and all of that jazz. It's been like 3 or 4 months. I've completely forgotten how to do this. But honestly, just watching and just being here is more than enough. So thank you for watching all the way to the end, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.